Hello and welcome to a special Friday the 13th edition of the Comic Haul for comic books that came out the week of July 11th. My name is Dylan, I'm your host today, and it is Friday the 13th and I'm doing this live right now. After I do this, I'm going to strap on my hockey mask, grab my machete, and start killing fornicating teenagers. But before then, I had to get this out of the way. So let's talk comics. Last week was a big week, and this week was actually surprisingly big also for what came out. This is this week's haul right here. But not a lot of stuff in the end. You know, again, I'm working on cutting down my stuff, and it seems to be working pretty good. But when you start getting a lot of stuff like this, it's kind of hard to, particularly there's lots of starting points this week. Particularly here's one, Superman #1. Now, I haven't been the biggest Bendis fan of Man of Steel. I thought the storyline is kind of bleh, and I'm not looking forward to the rest of his run. And the fact also that I've had discussion for Ivan Reyes as the artist on this first issue, which means he's only going to draw this issue, and then someone else is going to take over for him, and he's not going to come back for like 12 issues because that's how long it takes to draw a comic. But in the end, it looks pretty and all that stuff. But for now, he's drawing the first issue of it. It's written by Brian Michael Bendis, art by Ivan Reyes, with inks by Joe Prado. So you get your first issue of Superman. So if you want to start on the ground floor, I guess you should start with Man of Steel, and then read those 6 issues, and then come and check out the new issue #1. Action Comics 1001 doesn't come out next week, so it might be a couple weeks before it comes out. I don't know when it's going to come out. So artwork looks nice, and again, we'll see. It's a #1. That's one of the main reasons why I got it, so we'll see what happens. An ending, Flash 50, is the end of the Flash War, which sets up the status quo for the Flash now. All kinds of crazy stuff. Joshua Williamson is one of the ones involved in the metal storyline, so he's been messing around with stuff like that, so he's added some things in here. So Joshua Williamson is writer, Howard Porter is the artist. It's a double-sized issue since it's issue 50, so check it out. We get all kinds of Flash goodness and some, as I said, status quo changes and the possible return of a villain we thought was long dead, but we aren't 100% certain because they're keeping it under wraps. I'm not going to show you the end so as not to freak you out. Issue #2 of Plastic Man, 6-issue miniseries. Gail Simone is a hell of a writer, and I love the first issue. Was fantastic. So this is a miniseries, so it's good to pick it up, and plus you get Adriana Mello doing the artwork, which is absolutely gorgeous, so why not go for it? So it's a good series. Plastic Man is an underrated character, and it's a character that Gail Simone's been wanting to write for a while, so she's actually the perfect writer for this, and we'll hear from Gail again in a little bit. Also, we've got Hawkman #2. Again, I bought the variant because it's by Stefan Sejic. This is issue #2. I love the variant covers. It's written by Robert Venditti with art by Brian Hitch, inks by Andrew Curry, Daniel Henriquez, and Brian Hitch. Brian Hitch is pretty good at doing a monthly series, so maybe he'll be on this one for a while. Hawkman's always been one of these really interesting characters, so we'll see what happens. And I was just reminded, next week is San Diego Comic-Con, so next week is Comic Christmas. It's probably more Christmas than, say, Free Comic Book Day. That's more, I guess, Halloween, I guess, and Halloween is also Halloween. Maybe Free Comic Day is more like Easter, I suppose. I don't know. Just throw it out there. I'm not going, so it doesn't matter. I have friends who are going, but I'm not going to San Diego Comic-Con. Red Hood and the Outlaws #24. This leads to issue #25. This one has a major status quo changing thing as well. Scott Lobdell, writer, Dexter Soy, and Allison Borges, art. So, as again, I will continue to do a mea culpa. I thought this was going to be a horrible series, but I kept collecting it for a while because the artwork was nice. And then I read the first like 10 issues, and I was like, ooh, I really, really like this. And I haven't gotten caught up yet, but I'm going to get caught up eventually. And it's a good series to check out. So that's going to lead to issue 25, which is next month, and their big double-sized book there, and some changes coming to that series as well. That's it for the DC ones, actually, believe it or not. As I said, there are a bunch of other ones that came out this week that I'm just not buying. just because I got to cut down on stuff and I haven't been reading a lot. So, in case Ross Raw. So we start with Marvel. Another starting point here is Amazing Spider-Man #1. Now, this is the variant cover, and before you all kill me, I like this cover by Greg Land. I know Greg Land is not a lot of people's favorite artist right now, but I like this cover kind of a lot more than the Ryan Ottley cover for the first issue. So I got this, and because I bought this, my comic book store also gave me the special behind-the-scenes free edition. It's just really the book in black and white and some other stuff as well. But there's that. But I'm excited for this because, well, I'm excited and kind of pissed off too, because I'm pissed off because Marvel had this whole big legacy issue where they were going to renumber the comics to their original numbering. So it went through Amazing Spider-Man 801, and now we have a new #1. So we're starting over again. So it's as if the legacy just wanted to give Dan Slott a chance to write issue 800 and then do 801 and then leave, and then they were going to start over anyway. So, but what makes it good is this is like my 5th Amazing Spider-Man #1 that I bought. But in this case, I will be reading it and getting caught up on it with the news story. It's written by Nick Spencer, who doesn't excite me, but then I've been discovering that he is trying to get, I think, Mary Jane and Peter Parker back together again, and that is exciting. Artwork is by Ryan Ottley. Let's see, do they have the credits anywhere nearby here? It might not be till the end. Yeah, right here. Nick Spencer, writer, Ryan Ottley, pencils, Cliff Rathborn, inks. Now, there's 2 storylines. There are two stories. There's a fill-in by Humberto Ramos, and I think Nick Spencer wrote it also. Let's see. I know it's Humberto Ramos because his artwork is very distinct. I can't see. They don't really have the credits for that. So bear with me on that one, but I'll show you that. So what is really exciting is it looks like he's trying to get Mary Jane and Spider-Man back together again, which I think is a fantastic idea. And Ryan Ottley's artwork is pretty nice. And Nick Spencer has written The Deadly Foes of Spider-Man, so he knows what he's doing. And so we're getting a bunch of new stuff for Spidey and really getting that relationship back in play for Peter. So can't wait to read this to see what's going on. This is the page I really, really like because I love the 2 of them together. Let's see. It really isn't telling us who the creative team for the other story is. I can tell you it's Humberto Ramos, so I'm assuming more than likely it's also going to be Nick Spencer writing this as well. So we get a little bit more Mysterio, and we introduce a new villain who looks really, really cool. Right here. And then we have another added thing coming up with the Lizard. So it looks a pretty good starting point. And then we got this coming up soon, Spider-Geddon. And I've always liked when the multiple Spider-Mans got together from alternate dimensions, so we'll see. But definitely worth a pick up. Amazing Spider-Man #1 is out this week. Sorry for the length of that one, but Spider-Man was my first comic I ever got and read and got into, and so it got me into comics. So I'm excited that #1's out there. I'm excited that Mary Jane and Peter Parker, they're getting back together, so it's good. Talking about Gail Simone, Domino #4 is out. This has been another phenomenal series. I haven't been a big fan, and it's a Greg Land cover also. I haven't really been a big fan of Domino before, but with Gail writing it, she's really getting us really interesting. Art also by David Baldion is excellent. And got some good stuff here. So Domino's been an excellent series so far. Next up, we have Exiles number 5. Exiles was one of my favorite comics from the 90s or 2000s, I guess. This one is written by Saladin Ahmed, with art by Javier Rodriguez and Alvaro Lopez. Great premise where they enter alternate dimensions and take on alternate dimension characters, and then sometimes these characters join them. And so all the characters of the Exiles are from different dimensions as they take on different universes and multiverses. It's really interesting and quite exciting and nice looking. So that's a good series as well. The last Marvel one we got this week is Amazing Spider-Man Renew Your Vows number 21. This was the one that's another alternate dimension Spider-Man, which will probably show up a little bit in Spider-Geddon probably, where Peter Parker and Mary Jane remained married and they had a daughter, and now they all had powers. It's written by Jody Hauser with art by Scott Koblish. So it's fun to see the family that web swings together stays together. So it's always fun to see alternate storylines of Spider-Man, and also to see a happy family unit with Mary Jane and Spider-Man and his daughter and their daughter. That's it for Marvel. And finally, Independence. We also have a couple of interesting first issues and a surprise one and some other stuff. I'm going to talk more about this in detail on my show, Dylan Knows. My 250th anniversary, 250th episode is coming out tomorrow night probably. But League of Extraordinary Gentlemen, The Tempest, number 1 of 6. This is the final League of Extraordinary Gentlemen storyline. It's written by Alan Moore and Kevin O'Neill, and this is also their last comic together. I can't really show you too much about it because there's lots of nudity in this one. This one might not be too bad. But if you've been reading the League of Extraordinary Gentlemen, this wraps up everything and brings everything together. It's done in a couple of different styles. But I'll be talking more about the League of Extraordinary Gentlemen at another point on my show. But I just wanted to show that this, if you've been following them, the final storyline is here. And also to be the end of Alan Moore and Kevin O'Neill. They are going to be retiring after they finish this. So there's that. This came as a big surprise. A lot of people weren't expecting this one. Robert Kirkman has created a comic called, I can't think of it, Extinction something or other. I got the first couple issues of it and I was like, I'm not going to read it. But then I read somewhere that they wanted to surprise people. So this week they released a new number 1 that they had not been promoting at all, and used and gave all the comic book stores that ordered the Kirkman book, Extinction, whatever it was, gave them the same amount of versions of this book. So I was kind of surprised they were expecting this. It's called Die, Die, Die. It's written by Robert Kirkman and Scott M. Gimple, who is the showrunner of Walking Dead. And it's art by Chris Burnham and Nathan Fairbairn. Did Chris Burnham also write it? No, Chris Burnham's the artist. Fairbairn is the colorist. So it's a hugely violent book. But it was also, as I said, a surprise book that just came out of nowhere. But you get Robert Kirkman and Scott Gimple writing a book together with Chris Burnham artwork. So we'll see how. I guess the rest of the books will be connected to their orders for Kirkman's other comic. So this was a surprise. So there's a little story about the back. Oblivion Song, that's the name of it. So Die, Die, Die came out. So if you're lucky enough to pick it up, pick it up. Might be interesting. I'll take a look at it. It looks like it might be too violent for me, but we'll see. She Could Fly, number 1. This is one of the Berger books. Karen Berger, who helped create what is that? DC Vertigo, has come over to DC and has done a couple of different books. She did the Mata Hari book, which I also get. This is her second one, She Could Fly. She's also doing a book called Olivia Twist, and then The Seeds, and then Jonathan Ames, Alcoholic. So we'll see, but this seemed like an interesting idea. It's written by Christopher Cantwell, co-creator of AMC's acclaimed *Halt and Catch Fire*, and art by Martin Morazzo. It does have some sex in it and nudity, but I just wanted to show you the artwork is kind of interesting. And it's indeed a interesting idea, a different take on comics. So if you're looking for something different in comics, this is worth taking a look at. So there's that. From Aftershock, Relay #1. The artwork just looks really, really good on this. I figured I'll pick it up, see what it is. Zach Thomas, writer, Andy Clark, artist. Futuristic type of thing. Andy Clark's art is pretty nice looking, and it's intriguing. And I'll take a look at Aftershock's books. Have all been pretty good. So we'll see if I'm going to keep buying it, but I had to get the first issue at least because it was a really nice cover and very interesting. Red Sonja #18. Speaking of, this is Eric Burnham. Amy Chu and Eric Burnham writers, and art by Carlos Gomez. Again, hot chick with sword killing things. That's Red Sonja. But Amy Chu's a really good writer, and so is Eric Burnham, and Carlos Gomez is knocking it out of the park. I think he's drawn every issue of this version of Red Sonja so far, so good on that. Betrothed #5. Is this the final issue, or they got one more? I think they got one more after that. Nope, this is the final issue of it. So the first Betrothed miniseries ends with this issue. Sean Lewis is creator and writer, and Steve Huey is the artist. The premise is teenage boy and teenage girl who hate each other on Earth discover that they are aliens from differing worlds who are meant to be betrothed and married together. So they have to, if they don't, then the universe is going to fall apart. So that was the final issue of that. Didn't know that, but that works out pretty good. That's the final issue of that. And this is Elsewhere #8. This is the final issue of this. So it looks like it says here in 2 months, Elsewhere Volume 2. So the first volume of Elsewhere is done. Written by Jay Faber with art by Sumeye Keskin. It's where you get D.B. Cooper and Amelia Earhart, who were transported to an alternate dimension, and how they what they survived there. And then this has the two of them coming back to Earth and getting themselves back to normal, but then they discover there's more to what's going on than there. It's been a good series so far, so will I get Volume 2? We'll see. And that is the end of the comic haul. So pretty good stuff this week. Definitely worthwhile to go to your comic book store, check it out. Last week's comics should still be out on some of the shelves. So last week was a big week. This week is a pretty big week with some #1s. I'm trying to remember if anything huge is coming out next week. Well, we're getting Batman 51, the aftermath of what happened in Batman 50. Justice League #4, 5. 4, I think, is coming out also. I can't think of anything else right off the top of my head that might be. There might be a new #1 coming out from Marvel that might be interesting. We'll find out next week. As I said, next week is San Diego Comic-Con. Again, not that it's a big deal, but keep your eyes peeled on your social media pages if you're interested in comics. They're probably going to have a lot of news and stories and stuff like that. It's just about 10 o'clock. You got to go upstairs, make sure that my wife is going to bed because she has to get up early for work tomorrow, and I told her she has to go to bed at 10 o'clock. All right, guys. See you all next week. Bye.